27. 26 knots down the angle. 106 interval is a Rhino at 5. Sure, sir. 207 on flat back on course 1 mile. Sure, sir. 207 on.
At 1400 in the afternoon of the 17th of September 1944, the combined firepower of 300 artillery guns was unleashed onto the German positions just across the Belgian border in the Netherlands. Trenches, anti-tank positions and other forms of known defences were all hit in the 35-minute bombardment. Then at 14:35, this barrage began to creep forward at a rate of 180 metres per minute. Simultaneously, Lieutenant Keith Heathcote, the commander of the lead Sherman tank of No. 3 Squadron, the 2nd Battalion, the Irish Guards, shouted down his mic, "Driver, advance." For Lieutenant Keith Heathcote and the 2nd Battalion, this marked the start of their advance north to Arnhem as part of Operation Market Garden, the largest airborne assault in history. Riding forward along what was known as Club Route and later known as Hell's Highway, the British tanks encountered no opposition for the first 10 minutes of their advance, as they moved on their first objective, the town of Valkenswaard. This all changed at 14:45, when small groups of German paratroopers, equipped with the Panzerfaust anti-tank weapon, left the safety of their dugouts and positioned themselves in the roadside ditches. Passing within metres of them, the first 13 tanks of No. 3 Squadron rolled on through to their objective, unaware of the threat that lay immediately to their flanks. As soon as the 14th tank came into range, the Germans struck. Firing off their Panzerfausts, the Germans destroyed the 14th, 15th and 16th tanks of No. 3 Squadron and the first 6 Shermans of No. 1 Squadron, all in the space of 2 minutes. One guardsman escaped from his Sherman and, unknowingly, jumped into a nearby German trench. Looking up, he saw a German soldier staring back at him, who then proceeded to make room for the guardsman and offer him a cigarette. Elsewhere, Lance Sergeant W. Smith leapt out from his Sherman and into the roadside ditches. Here he found himself involved in a close-quarter encounter as a German soldier attacked him. Quickly drawing his sidearm, the Lance Sergeant fired off 2 shots, killing the German soldier. However, he had himself incurred 5 bullet wounds in one of his legs. The photo on screen now is of the last 2 Sherman tanks of No. 1 Squadron to be destroyed in the ambush. The tank visible in the background is actually that of Lance Sergeant Smith, whilst the one closest to the photographer was commanded by Lance Sergeant Dave Roper, who was wounded during the engagement but managed to get himself out of the tank. Of Roper's 5-man crew, Guardsman William Moore was to be killed in action, whilst Guardsman Saunders would be wounded, and Guardsman O'Reilly and Dowd would escape unhurt. In this photo, we see the final 3 tanks of No. 3 Squadron, which were commanded by, from left to right, Lance Sergeant Ernest Wildman, Lance Sergeant Edward Cashon, and Squadron Sergeant Major William Parks, all of whom were killed in action. Several metres behind them were the 1st Sherman tanks of No. 1 Squadron, commanded by Lieutenant Barry Queenan and Lieutenant Duncan Lampard. Of Lieutenant Queenan's crew, both the driver and co-driver were killed, whilst the fate of the other 2 crewmen, in addition to the other 4 of Lampard's crew, isn't known. The final 2 Shermans of No. 1 Squadron sat just behind that of Lieutenant Lampard's. Unfortunately, no photos are available of them, nor is there information on the crew who manned them. Embedded into the column of No. 1 Squadron was an M3 half-track, manned by RAF Forward Air Controllers. The role of these men was to call in close air support aircraft to support the Irish Guards in their advance north. And as news of the ambush reached them, that is exactly what they done. With direct radio communication with the pilots, the controllers pinpointed targets to be hit, whilst the guardsmen further ahead fired off red smoke to signal German positions. Coming in at treetop level, the Hawker Typhoons conducted 230 passes through the area, hitting any designated targets, in addition to targets of opportunity. Over a 2-hour period, the Typhoons fired some 455 rockets onto German positions. Meanwhile, the tanks of the 2nd Irish Guards began deploying off the road to engage and get around the enemy. One of those tanks was that commanded by Lance Sergeant Bertie Cowan of No. 2 Squadron, who was the commander of a Sherman Firefly. Manoeuvring into the fields to the left of the road, Cowan's Firefly spotted a German tank hidden behind a farmhouse. Firing one shot, the Firefly knocked out the enemy tank, after which the crew was seen scrambling out from it. Running towards British lines, the German crewmen ran into the 2nd Battalion's intelligence officer, Captain Eamon Fitzgerald, who forced them at gunpoint to get on the back of British tanks and point out other German positions. This they done, and not only did they point out the positions of their colleagues, but they also convinced several anti-tank gun crews to surrender to the British troops. Elsewhere, the infantry of the 3rd Battalion, the Irish Guards, dismounted from the tanks of the 2nd Battalion and proceeded to clear the flanks of the roadside. Here they cleared German trenches and dugouts and rounded up many dazed and shell-shocked German infantry who were sent back to the rear. Unfortunately, one German prisoner had concealed a stick grenade under his jacket and proceeded to throw the grenade into a Lloyd carrier, which exploded, killing its one occupant, Sergeant Walter Williams. By 1630, the area around the ambush site was beginning to be made safe, and a bulldozer was brought forward to clear the road of the destroyed Sherman tanks. Within an hour, this task was achieved, and at 1730, the tanks of the 2nd Irish Guards, alongside the infantry of the 3rd Irish Guards, resumed their advance north to Eindhoven. By 2140, the 2 battalions had successfully reached Valkenswaard and were establishing defences around the town. The advance on Eindhoven was to resume the next day, on the 18th of September, 1944. Over the course of the 17th of September, the 2nd and 3rd Battalions of the Irish Guards suffered a total of 20 men killed in action and a further 40 wounded. Of the 20 killed, 9 are still missing in action and are remembered on the walls of the Groesbeek Memorial. 10 are buried in the Valkenswaard War Cemetery, whilst one, Sergeant Walter Williams, is laid to rest in the Leopoldsburg War Cemetery, just across the border in Belgium.